Brittany, for men who, feign such confusion, like, what do we do? And everything we say, and I can't tell somebody they have a nice dress these days without it being something. Can you explain to men who have those questions the power dynamic of what it means when someone puts a young woman in that position?
Well, the question that I would ask those men is, why do you want to say that in the first place? Why do you feel like it's your place? Why is it a necessary part of a professional engagement or a conversation? You know, my play cousin, Ayanna Pressley, always says that the power of the people is always greater than the people in power. And really, this is a question and conversation about power. Andrew Cuomo seems to have forgotten that the power of the people matters. And unfortunately, his abuses of power are a pattern. When you look at how he's stepped over lines with the teachers union, when you look at the allegations around hiding the numbers of people infected with COVID in nursing homes, and yes, with the multiple allegations from multiple women, these are consistent abuses of power. And if the governor is willing to lord his power over women in this way, that means it can happen to more women, and he can abuse his power in more ways. So fundamentally, this is not just about giving somebody a compliment. This is actually about understanding that these power dynamics are very real between genders. And we need to recognize that this doesn't have to be a part of the culture anymore just because this is the way that it's been for a long time.
Right. So, Maria, I imagine that you've seen times change significantly. I know things have certainly changed for me since I was in my 20s and 30s. And, now behavior is a lot less tolerable. From your perspective, what do you say to people who are still confused about what's appropriate and what's not?
Yeah. So Tiffany, and the people on the panel know that politicians. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of politicians in general. So a year ago, more or less, actually, it was actually around April when I got sick with COVID, and suddenly I find myself watching Governor Cuomo like every day. Not something that I'm usually doing with a particular politician. And I remember thinking like, wow, this guy really gets family dynamics because, of course, we now had our adult children living at home, and he talked about the boyfriend. And, I was like, wow, he's really a politician that's understanding this. And as somebody who was sick at that point, like I really needed that affirmation. And then, you begin to see these things. And that's the exact question, which is, are you just totally clueless? And that is where you cannot be that clueless. You cannot be that kind of aware of a family dynamic. He has daughters who are the age of my own daughter, in their 20s. You cannot be so aware of family dynamics and then be completely clueless when you're alone with a young woman. And I spoke to older women who have worked with Cuomo for years, very powerful women. And they're like, I don't see this. I don't see this. He's never done this around me. And I'm like, yeah, because you're a powerful woman and he's not going to do that. But what happens when he's alone with the younger women? And it's like, nah, you can't be that clueless. Just cannot.
Right. So, Sharon, then let me ask you, what are some ways that women can assert themselves when they're in those positions? Or should they just immediately report this to their superior or supervisor? I'm trying to figure out if there's a spectrum here, if you can just confront the behavior, or are you obligated to report it, or both?
Well, I think it's really important to recognize that oftentimes in these situations, we're experiencing the fight, flight, freeze, and lesser known, the fawn response. And fawning is when you begin to people please in order to diffuse conflict, to reestablish a sense of safety. And I think we really need to go beyond this by identifying what's actually going on. Your body tells you so much if you just listen to it. And I think that we should confront them in the moment by speaking clearly and directly, saying, I feel uncomfortable with the way that you're touching me right now. And by doing this, we can hopefully correct their behavior so that they don't do it again. Otherwise, we just normalize it and they're just going to think it's okay. So I love to tell my clients this: if you're not confronting, you're enabling.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.